Hey, what's up? Like, totally time for 90210.
Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to the 90210 show. My name is Mark. With me as always is my wife, Carol. How you doing today, Carol?
Hey, what's up?
Not much. It's been a good week here. It's November 4th, 1999. And Carol and I were laying pipe.
What the fuck is that supposed to mean?
We weren't, though. I mean, not recently. Carol's got something going on with her mouth and everything. So.
God. Yeah, Carol's not doing great. Got my flu shot. I've got a canker sore. I don't feel good.
Yeah. So, but laying pipe is the name of the episode, which is a euphemism for
sex, right?
I would assume.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, yes, it's a euphemism for sex. I don't know if it's a euphemism for anything else. And I don't know what it has to do with this episode.
Yeah, I don't remember there being anything about pipe. I mean,
Piping.
Dylan and Kelly almost have sex, but they don't.
Yeah. I mean, is it a reference to the car or her performance with the car, with Steve's car? I don't think so because the cars have a tailpipe, but
yeah.
And she acted like she wanted to lay pipe with David, which she still might. I don't know. I don't think that was just a con. Maybe it was. Who knows?
I don't know. That was bizarre. I guess let's let people in on what we're talking about here.
Okay, yeah, we watched 90210, everyone. Like you did.
Yeah, I would hope. So, what do we want to start? David?
Sure, let's start with David, yeah.
Sure. So,
the fun storyline. David, in his evolution to be a mix between Don Imus and Howard Stern.
He, again, gets recognized, like so many fucking radio DJs do.
Yeah, seriously. I think I could tell you what Wolfman Jack looked like, because he was in that American Graffiti movie.
Uh-huh.
But we have several DJs that are, famous around here. If you want to go back to the 60s, you've got Lee Allen, people that are WRF, baby. People whose voices I think is Art Penhauer or something like that. I don't even remember his name. Arthur Penhauer, I think is his name, or whatever. But you have just a bunch of people whose voices you recognize. Alan Almond, that he's the whatever After Dark guy, right?
Pillow Talk.
It's time for Pillow Talk with Alan Almond. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like that guy. I recognize a bunch of their voices,
sure,
but I wouldn't know their faces.
Of course not.
It's in a visual medium.
It's weird. I mean, he is in a glass booth in a club. I guess maybe that's why they recognize him. But
yeah, I don't know. Do they have video cameras just pointed at him the whole time? The only reason people know what Howard Stern looks like is because he's got that show on E!
Mm-hmm.
Or whatever where they record him talking on his thing.
Yeah.
And because of the movie and, he's been in the media as probably the most famous radio personality ever or whatever.
Yeah.
But, I mean, most people on the radio, you don't know what they look like. You create a mental image of what they look like. And sometimes when you see them in person or whatever, you're like, oh, wow, you look like that? I wouldn't have thought.
Right. So, I guess we need to back it up a smidge.
Boop, boop, boop.
Steve and Janet are buying a minivan.
That's right. Steve's getting a minivan.
And he's also selling his Corvette.
Yeah, so they did another Jimmy Smits style switch. Ellen Barkin, Jimmy Smits switch. It's a good movie. They switch places, they don't switch places. He becomes a girl. He becomes Ellen Barkin, Jimmy Smits. He's a womanizer that, a radio lands in his hot tub or something like that and electrocutes him, and he wakes up as Ellen Barkin. So he has to learn what it's like to be a woman. It's a good movie. Anyway, so they do a switch again where last week or whatever, last time we talked, Steve was like, Janet, don't be in the fucking band or whatever. You're acting like a kid. We need to be responsible adults or whatever. And now it's like, Steve, we're going to buy a minivan. And Janet's like, we're going to buy a minivan and be responsible and be responsible parents. And Steve's like, I want a car. I want my Corvette. It's like they're just switched again.
Yeah, it's annoying. I really feel like the writers on the show are not good.
10 years in, we're just discovering this, folks.
But I mean, like, are they the same writers from the beginning?
Don't know.
I bet they're not.
Show's been on so long, I bet those writers are collecting unemployment now.
Retirement?
Yeah, retirement now.
Pension.
Their pension. Social Security. There's the joke. We found it, everyone. The government program.
So Steve has a for sale sign in his Corvette, and some dude is offering him $28,000.
He went to the dealership, and the dealership's like, okay, so for your trade-in, we'll give you $25,000 for the car. And I'm thinking, like, that's pretty fucking
really good.
Yeah. I mean, it's a Corvette, I understand, but $25,000 is a lot of money for a fucking car. Mm-hmm. And that car is not that new. He's been driving it for a while. Mm-hmm. And he's like, no, I'm walking out of here with money in my pocket or whatever. The low blue book value of the car is $29,000, I think he says. And he's like, look, this is a family car place. You're buying a fucking minivan, dude. Like, we're going to lose money on it because I can't sell a fucking Corvette here. You know? We got dads coming in here. And so he decides not to sell it. They buy the minivan anyway. Mm-hmm. So I get the minivan. He keeps the car. And then he's like, I'm going to sell it privately. And this guy that looks like he just walked in from the fucking Jersey Shore. Like his name is Tommy Knuckles or something like that. Like, no, let me take a look at this car. Forget about it. Like, he's got the gold chain on with a sweater that's horribly striped. He looks like no offense to Italian Americans out there, he looks like a Goomba.
The fuck?
He does. Hey, gabagool, come on, capicola. I
didn't even know that was a racial slur.
I don't think it's a racial slur. There is the other one that I won't say. It starts with a D.
I thought Goombas were like a character in Mario.
Yeah, they are.
Okay.
But anyway, so yeah, he looks like a mobster or whatever. He looks like a low-level guy.
But he offers him, then he increases his offer, I thought.
$28,000. If I offer you $28,000, will you take it? And he's like, oh, you're smart. Only offering me $28,000. You noticed the oil leak that doesn't exist. Because he doesn't want to sell it to this guy. Because he calls his car Big Steve. And as David points out, he's like, does that mean you're Little Steve? Like, what the fuck? And Big Steve is a she. He refers to his car as a she.
Yeah, it's very weird.
So he's like, no, I'm keeping the car. And Dave's like, you don't want to spend the next 5 years paying on this car. And it's like, that's fine, I'm sure, for him. Like, whatever. And you and I both said, like, who cares?
Yeah, he can have his car for when he goes and does things without the baby.
Yeah, like, it's okay. If he can afford the payments on the minivan, who gives a shit if he still has his Corvette? So, Janet and he, which we'll get to when we talk about the other storyline, but they're going up to Ojai to practice I think that's where they're getting married, to practice their ceremony and stuff like that.
Yeah, the wedding rehearsal.
With the priest. And while up there, this woman comes up and she's like, oh man, there was a for sale sign in this car. I wanted it so bad. And the for sale sign's gone now.
No, that's not in Ojai. That's in the Peach Pit parking lot.
No, that's what I'm saying.
It was not clear. You're talking about how they're in Ojai. And
I'm sorry.
So no.
While they're in Ojai, the car is back in the Peach Pit, and this black woman, this attractive woman walks up, and she's like, oh, this fucking car, I wanted it. Yeah. Hey, you're David Silver.
David's there for some reason. And
he's walking into the
she recognizes him. And she's like, oh, I'm so bummed. I wanted to buy the car. And he's like, oh, really? I bet I could, sell you the car.
And he's like, well, let me call my friend because it's his car. So he calls, and Janet answers Steve's phone that's already starting. And he's like an idiot, he's like, yeah, I want to know if you guys changed your mind about keeping the car. And she's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Of course we're selling the car. And he's like, oh, Steve didn't have a conversation with you, huh? And she's like, no. I'm going to talk to him about lying and everything.
Yeah, so he sells Steve's car. I don't know how he can sell Steve's car.
I don't know. Apparently he has the keys.
And the title?
No, Steve has the title. She doesn't get the title because, as he later points out, he didn't sign the pink slip over to her. Mm-hmm. So she just has the keys. But apparently she doesn't care.
Well, no, because of what happens. So her and David are all flirty.
Mm-hmm. And she's like, if you're going to play, you might as well score. And he's like, yeah, it's just a saying. It gets ratings or whatever. And she's like, I want to fucking talk to you. Mm-hmm. So as they go into the peach pit, no Nat. Apparently he's out.
Yeah. And he buys her lunch and says, the man should pick up the check or something along those lines.
Yeah. And he's like, well, he says a bunch of stuff. He's talking about like how the stuff that he's saying is stuff he wished he'd heard when he was a teenager and everything. And he feels like he got taken advantage of time and time again by different women and all this stuff. I mean, you fucked 2 girls named Mary. I don't know how much you were taken advantage of. But it's like he's going on about this stuff. And at the end, he's like, I believe the man should pick up the check or whatever. And then she pulls a tape recorder out of her purse and plays just that part. So that we know, like, yeah, we understand. We see a tape recorder, we understand the conversation was recorded.
So my thought when that happened is she's some kind of reporter. She's doing a story
Me
on
too.
him. Like,
Me too.
This is going to come back and bite him somehow.
Yep.
But she invites him to her performance.
Yeah, she's a performance artist, and it's like this warehouse where there are just other, I guess, performance artists, but they're just walking around like it's a fucking carnival.
Yeah.
There are people like breathing fire and shit like that. It's weird.
And Steve and Janet go with him.
Somebody's on stilts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like an indoor circus.
Yeah.
And then we see Steve's car up on the stage, all spray painted.
Yeah.
And
she's like, I call this piece chauvinism. And we're going to deconstruct and learn and all this stuff and everything. And for the next 2 hours, she says, and which sounds like torture to me.
Yeah.
But she comes out like on a harness or something like that. She's flying. She comes down onto the top of the car. In the background, the entire time is playing, I believe the man should pick up the check or whatever. It's just David's voice over and over again.
Just that one line.
On a loop. And it's like he said so many more damaging things about chauvinism and shit like that. But I guess he also said things that were explanations. So she just wanted to play that one part or whatever. And they start taking the car apart. Mm-hmm. So, which I get it. It's like that Corvette is a symbol of chauvinism. And they're deconstructing it, and I guess maybe she's giving a sermon about chauvinism or whatever while she's doing it. Who knows?
So she's saying David's a chauvinist in doing this, then?
Yeah. But she also is dressed in a really low-cut shirt. And I don't know if that's on purpose, too. Like, if she's somewhat objectifying herself as, like, this is what men look at, and stuff like that. Maybe. I don't know.
But yeah, Steve had been hoping to buy the car back from her.
Yeah.
Not going to happen now.
No, he doesn't. He's lost his car and now he's got a minivan, which is fun.
Well. And $28,000, so.
Yeah. It's a lot easier to have sex in the back of a minivan, by the way. Remember when you had sex with Janet? Not you. You look surprised.
Like, what are you talking about?
Remember when you had sex with Janet in the back of that car? Which is why she's pregnant now?
Right.
When you were trying to, I don't know, help those teens or whatever the fuck was happening.
Yeah, that was a weird episode.
But yeah, so easier to have sex in the back of a minivan. The seats fold down and everything. But that's David's storyline. I don't know, like, is this woman coming back?
I doubt
Did this
it.
turn him off? Did it turn him on? Like, I don't know. It didn't specifically seem like she was saying, "Oh, you're an asshole, David." Mm-hmm. Just like we're talking about chauvinism, kind of thing. I don't know.
I don't know, but I don't think she'll be coming back. I think this is just one story.
She's a one-off.
Yeah.
So then we've got the whole Ojai situation with the 4 of them.
Yeah.
The Godfather situation.
Yeah. Steve and Janet invite Dylan and Kelly to come to Ojai for the wedding rehearsal and to be their baby's godparents.
Yeah, to talk to the priest because they want them to be the godfather and the godmother.
Which is weird normally, I believe they try to pick a couple, not,
Really?
two not together people.
Interesting.
Well, I mean, the idea of godparents is that they're supposed to, help with the spiritual, upbringing of the child.
Sure.
Which, I'm sorry, Kelly and Dylan, what?
Yeah, really. Although, go ahead.
It also is the idea that you would take them if something happened to the parents.
Yeah.
So, that's all. Go ahead.
Although, apparently she's Catholic, because that priest is Catholic, for sure. And his response to, like, Dylan being like, well, we just want to know more about, like, maybe we'd be more excited about being godparents if we knew more about it. I think Kelly says something like that. And he's like, well, there's nothing really to it, you're just kind of there. You're supposed to be part of the spiritual life or whatever, but you're just kind of there as, like, an extra support system or whatever. And, like, he speaks in vagaries of, like, it doesn't really matter, which is the most Catholic fucking answer I've ever heard on, the modern Catholic anyway, on something like that. Oh, you want to be godparents? It doesn't fucking matter. Just say yes. That's really all he says.
Yeah. Well, he also says, but in this child's eyes, you and Dylan will forever be connected.
Yeah, well, you'll be linked, or whatever.
Which is so weird.
And then they look at each other like, oh, yeah, let's fucking link.
Mm-hmm. Like, they had that whole episode where they're like, oh, we're soulmates and, whatever.
They existed throughout the years and everything. Another terrible episode of the show.
But it's like, I feel like the show wants them together, and I thought that that's what was happening.
Oh my god, the show wants them together so bad.
So just put them together. You're in control, writers.
Yeah, but they're gonna... They have to have adversity first, though.
It's so annoying.
Yeah.
So there's some pink sunset thing.
The pink
in
hour.
Ojai?
Yeah, the pink hour. Dylan's trying to get into her pink hour.
Right. And apparently, and he talks to the priest separately too, and he's like, the last time I was here, I was with my wife, and
she's dead.
Yeah. And the priest is like, oh, it's time to open up to somebody new, and
yeah, the priest was like, oh, well, maybe you shut down and mourned and stuff. Because he's like, I've been with other women since. He's like, yeah, but have you really? Have you opened yourself up? Mm-hmm. And he's like, maybe you shut down. Maybe it's time to look at that sunset with somebody else, man. And then he leaves. And
so they're going to go look at the sunset together, Dylan and Kelly.
Yeah, because in anger, Janet left with Steve. And they're like, find your own way back, basically. And so they stay together there, which... much to the consternation of, what's her name?
Gina,
yeah.
Well, Gina didn't even want them to go, and I feel like that's valid, and I think that Dylan should have brought her with him, since they are supposed to be a couple.
Yeah. Oh, he does not act like they're a couple, really.
No. So then she is with Matt when Kelly calls Matt and tells him that she's going to stay in Ojai with Dylan. Mm-hmm. Why would she call and tell him? They're not together anymore.
Well, they are. Like, it's very confusing because, like, last episode, she said, I don't think we should see each other until after this whole situation with the murderer that you're trying to save his life is accomplished. And, like, we shouldn't, like, talk and shit like that. And he's like, okay. And then they have, like, little, like, she says something, hey, how about some idle chatter or whatever? Like, they want me to be godparents. What do you think? And he's like, well, fuck you. I think you need to be compassionate to be a godparent. And you're not compassionate. You're a piece of shit. And he like walks away, basically. And it's like, it seems like maybe they're broken up. I don't know. I
think they're broken up.
It's very ambiguous. They're on a break.
But either way, even if they weren't broken up, it's weird for her to call and tell him I'm going to spend the night with Dylan. Mm-hmm. But Gina's there, and she's like, I'm going to Ojai.
Yeah.
And she drives up there and busts in the room when they're hugging.
Yeah.
And they're hugging because they hear that Matt won his case.
Yeah, we don't get to see it because I guess she doesn't get to see it.
What do you mean?
The call from the governor.
Mm.
He didn't win the case. Like, they appealed to the governor, and the governor's like, yeah, don't kill him.
Well, isn't that what they wanted?
Yes.
So, he won.
Yeah, yes, he was victorious. Yeah.
And so, for some reason, that changes Kelly's mind.
She's like, oh my god, he saved someone's life. It's like, she does a complete 180 on her beliefs, somehow.
And she was gonna fuck Dylan, and just that one thing makes her not fuck him anymore. And I don't
She's like,
understand.
now I want to fuck Matt. I saw him on TV. Now I want to fuck Matt.
So Gina busted on that, and then it's like supposed to be okay, and like
we don't see the aftermath because the whole thing is ridiculous. Like her forgiving him would be ridiculous. Mm-hmm. She's like, I don't fucking trust you or whatever. And it's like, and she shouldn't, by the way. Mm-hmm. And she's like, just because I was wrong this time. Like, she believes she was wrong this time, even though she saw them hugging in a hotel room. Mm-hmm. And she wasn't wrong. He was going to fuck her.
Yeah. The only reason that didn't happen is because Kelly was like, oh, wait, never mind.
Yeah.
And that was like 2 minutes before Gina walked in.
Exactly. So it's like, she's like, I might have been wrong this time. And she's like, you were. And she's like, but I'll tell you what, it's going to take me being wrong a bunch of times before I trust you again. And he's like, well, I'm ready for that or whatever. Like, it's like, okay.
No, you're not. Because, like, are we supposed to believe that he's going to try to open up with her now? Because I don't think so.
Fuck no.
Like,
this show is rapidly, approaching its end because this is the last season. And I think they're going to have the two of them together. They're going to have Kelly and Dylan together. That's what the show wants. I think that's how it's going to end.
Well, then do it already. Frustrated.
But they have to build, like, it has, like, this has to be the road to it. Like, they have to end with them together. Not like, oh, they're together, and then, like, we coast for 17 episodes, and then it's the end,
Mm. What else happened in this episode? I feel like nothing.
Well, nothing else really happened. We didn't go into super detail about the waiting for the call and stuff like that. We kind of merged all the storylines together, because they do sort of merge together.
They really do. Everything's very interconnected in this episode.
But I mean, yeah, that's basically it. It was a weird, frustrating episode. Mm-hmm. I thought the art piece thing was kind of funny and an interesting thing to do, but not, I don't know, like Seinfeld, this show is not, where they try to connect things, and everything have a satisfying conclusion.
I want to know how she possibly made her money back.
Yeah, there wasn't like a massive audience there or whatever. Yeah. Are the other performers paying her? Like, what's going on?
$28,000 to destroy a car.
Yeah,
crazy.
Ridiculous. But that is the episode for the week. Carol, tell people where they can find their own $28,000 Corvette.
You can write us at latefee1994 at AOL.com. Mm-hmm. Check out our website at www.retrolatefee.com.
Yep.
And share the tapes with your friends.
We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.